What's up, fam? If we don't know each other yet, that is absolutely tragic and we should change that. My name is Jess. I'm the owner of Dolls in Training and the creator of the BBL Encyclopedia and the Travel Surgery Journal. As I've said before, I am completely committed to helping dolls like you prepare from surgeon to snatched, from consultation to compression, and everything in between. If after watching all of my videos, checking out all the content on my socials, and using all the free tools on my website, you still have questions, let's connect. DM me, tell me your name, what surgery you're having, who your surgeon is, and how I can help. My goal is to make sure you're totally educated and go into surgery with a peaceful mind. This video is clearly about the second stage of recovery and the faja that correlates to it, the stage 2 faja. This is also the 4th video in a series of 5 all about fajas. That's right, I have a 5-video faja series, and it kicks off with 65 minutes covering the top Q&A of the faja journey from start to finish. The ultimate faja education. If you haven't seen those videos, please go back and watch those before you dive into stage 2. This process and journey is super detailed, and my guidance is laid out in a way that supports this detail. Check out the first 3 videos in this series for a more comprehensive learning experience. As I've stated many times before, your stage 2 of recovery could begin anywhere between 3 weeks post-op and 6 weeks post-op, and run through 3 months post-op to 6 months post-op. It's all dependent on the way your body recovers from trauma. In this video, while I give you a visual of how to put the garment on and include some accessories along the way, I'm also going to give you a verbal explanation on some of the top questions that I get about the stage 2 garment, and every once in a while I'll explain some of the steps that I'm taking on screen. So you've received your stage 2 garment and you're ready to put it on for the very first time. Please hear what I'm about to say. I'm trying to make your life so much easier. It will feel nearly impossible to get this garment on, especially if it has been created and fitted to your specific measurements. It is extremely important that you line up the legs and pay very close attention to the seams in the garment the way that I'm doing in the video. The seam on the inside of the thigh needs to be exactly in the center of your inner thigh. If you can see any part of the seam while you're looking straight on in a mirror, the legs of that garment are not positioned correctly, and it could seem like the rest of the garment does not fit. Super important that you make several adjustments before you even clasp the first hook. I gave a great visual in my stage 1.5 video, which explains where the crotch of the garment should be and where the seam of that thigh should be. Really make sure you get it right before you start adjusting the rest of that garment. So what I like to do is clasp the first hook and then adjust the thighs one more time before I start any more hooks. I pull it up on the back of the butt, stretch out the seams a little bit. If you hear cracking in the seams, it's not breaking, it's not ripping. That just means that the garment is opening up and breathing and getting ready to house your new body. If the thighs and the butt area on your garment look exactly like mine does in the video, you're ready to go on to the next step. Save yourself the frustration and push in the flap if there is any on your garment. No matter which row of hooks you're on, there's always this little flap of fabric that you'll need to kind of sweep underneath the rest of the hooks. It just makes it so much easier when you're hooking up the entire thing. All right, so when I get to about the 3rd or 4th hook, I like to put my ab board in. If you are wearing your stage 2 faja, you should be wearing your ab board. If you have your faja on, you should have your ab board on. If you are wearing your faja, wear your ab board. I hope you've gotten my point by now. So many people ask me how I got rid of the lower belly pooch area, that stubborn area where you have the most fat, as most women carry. I did not stop wearing my ab board for the entire time I wore the stage 2 faja. I don't care if I was sleeping, awake, whatever, and I'll show you later in the video exactly why, especially during sitting. In the middle of my stage 1 video, I have a really good chart or visual representation of which ab boards I recommend and during which time frames and for which stage garments. Go back and check that out. Since it's really hard to show you what the backboard should look like inside the garment, here I'm giving you a visual of what it looks like on the outside. I also modified one of my foams to use in place of the backboard when I felt the backboard was too bulky. And to be totally honest with you, I used the foam for 99% of my recovery. I really only used that pain in the ass backboard a handful of times. All right, so once you have both of your boards in place, pull your shoulder straps up and you're ready to hook up the rest of the clasps. Get ready to look closely because here I'm giving you a visual of what I was talking about with that little fabric piece before. Every 2 or 3 hooks, maybe even 1 or 2, stick your thumb inside and sweep that fabric over to the inside of the garment. It's just going to be so much more comfortable once you have the entire thing hooked up, and it's going to make wearing so much easier. Okay, so measuring for your stage 2 garment. I didn't have time to mention this in the beginning of this particular video, but I do talk about this in depth in my Ultimate Faja education video, so please go check that out for more of the top Q&A on fajas in general. But the best time to measure for and order your stage 2 garment is between 7 to 14 days post-op. When you order a quality garment and one that's made customized to your personal measurements, which is what I say is not a standard size, it customarily takes several weeks from order date to delivery date. So for this reason, you'll want to order as soon as possible, but in the first 7 days after surgery, your body will still be incredibly swollen and retaining far too much fluid to get an accurate measurement. You also want the garment to last through your second stage. 7 to 14 days post-op is the sweet spot. Now clearly here you can see I'm giving you a visual demonstration of what it looks like sitting in your garment with the ab board and without the ab board. The reason that I recommend you wear the ab board at all times in the stage 2 garment is for this reason. Yes, the garment is meant to be durable and strong and reinforcing, but it is still fabric. It's going to mold and mend to your body. When you have that ab board in, that just adds all the more reinforcement to your skin and your tissues, and you're regenerating your nerves and muscles and everything that needs to be held tight and flat and firm. A faja is not going to do that to loose skin or areas that were lipoed. Faja is good for compression, but to flatten that belly and to keep it that way, you need that ab board. If you look at where I'm pointing here, I'm showing you that this ab board covers that lower belly pooch area that I really wanted to flatten. And if you're curious about why I'm about to undo it, it's because I didn't have the ab board in at first, and sometimes when you don't have the ab board in, it's easier to kind of play with your hooks a little bit, tighten the garment in certain areas, loosen it in others, and I just wanted to make sure that I was on the same row of hooks when I put the board in, so that's all I'm doing here. You'll notice I'm demoing 2 different ab boards inside this garment just to give you an idea of how each one looks. Feel free to rewind if you need a reminder of what the belly looks like when I'm sitting without the ab board, but at the end of the demonstration, I will give you a side-by-side visual. So while you're watching this side-by-side demo, I want to take a minute just to emphasize the importance of going back and watching the first few videos in this Faja series. I give some really important and really crucial tips on how to adjust the garment as you're putting it on in my stage 1.5 video that are also really applicable and really beneficial to know for the stage 2 garment. So again, if you haven't watched those videos, please go back and watch them. I promise, it will thoroughly answer any questions you have about the garment process from start to finish. Babes, look at the difference here. I can't tell you how many questions I get about how to get rid of loose skin and that lower belly pooch area. Wear your fucking ab board. Thank you. Alright, some further questions specific to stage 2 fajas. When do I stop wearing my foams and boards in the stage 2? Okay, if you haven't gotten it already, don't ever stop wearing your boards, especially your ab board. If you want to exchange a foam for the backboard, be my guest. I did, it worked beautifully. But don't stop wearing the ab board. I also liked the extra oomph on the back compression, so I used a foam instead. But into the next question, when do I stop wearing my foams? Your foams are only medically necessary for 3 weeks post-op. Medical grade foams serve a medical purpose, and that is to help the nerves and the skin and the muscles and all your tissues regenerate and fuse back together the way they were supposed to be pre-lipo. This kind of rolls right into the next question. My foams and boards don't fit inside my stage 2, or a common misconception, if foams and boards fit, it means the garment is too loose. False. You will be able to fit at least a board inside your stage 2 garment, but you do not need to keep wearing the foams after 3 weeks. At that point, it's only a matter of comfort. Flag: if you are too uncomfortable to wear the stage 2 without foams, that's probably a good indication that you're not in your second stage of recovery yet. You may need to give yourself a little more time. Keep the garment to the side and continue wearing your stage 1 or a standard size garment stage 1.5 with the foams. Try again the following week. Repeat that process if necessary. Any new custom garment will need time to breathe. After some effort and with a little elbow grease or help from your partner, you will be able to fit a board in there at the very least. If you have more questions that I haven't covered here, let me know what your questions are in the comments, and maybe I'll upload a stage 2 pro tip Q&A. What do you think? Thank you so much for watching, babes. I wish you nothing but peace and safety on this wild, wild journey.